So I just got this AZ 7-string Prestige. I've had this AZ Premium for about 4 years. So why don't we talk about some of the differences, some of the similarities, and if you're looking at trying to decide between an Ibanez Prestige and a Premium, what are the things to think about and what are the things to take into consideration? So let's get into it. Short answer, if you don't want to watch the whole video, is both of these guitars are amazing. You will not feel at all like you're missing anything going with one of the premium models. Now, I realize this is not an apples to apples comparison because we're comparing, number one, a 7 to a 6, but also we're doing, an HH to an HSS. But that being said, being very familiar with this guitar, this basically being like my number one, guitar for the last like 4 years. I've played a ton of gigs with this, done a ton of recordings, and I have a really good feel for that. And then, just having this for a week, just kind of trying to see, what the similarities are and what the differences are. And they have way, way more in common than they do differences. Let's just start with, if you're looking at these, now the 7-string model I think is $100 extra than the 6-string Prestiges. When they launched, I remember these were $1,300 and the Prestiges were $2K. The difference they're going to tell you is there's a different trim. There's I think there's titanium saddles on this one. A different type of roasting process for the wood, the S-Tech. They say there's rolled fret edge treatment. But so right off the bat though, I'm just going to tell you I don't feel any difference. So when you look at the when you just run your hand on the side of the fretboard and kind of feel the edges, there's really no difference. They're both amazing. Like this guitar has been incredible. I think you can see where the extra money went on this, but to me it's like if I was going to price these would be worth around maybe like in that $1,000 to $1,200 range, and these are only maybe a couple hundred more. I don't think the $700 price difference is really justified. Not that these aren't great. It comes down to like one thing to think about. When I was getting this, okay, it's not that I wouldn't have got a Prestige when the AZ line came out, but I wanted an HSS. So this was, I still think to this day, this is the coolest paint scheme they've ever done on any AZ. I don't think there's been one that looks better than this. And it was like looking at there was in the 2018 line, there was one Prestige that had kind of a cool, it's the same color they use on the Martin Miller ones now. It's like an aqua blue. That was about the only one I thought looked really cool. So it was more like, well, I really want this finish, and it was in the premium. So that's what I went with, and I never felt like I was getting anything less than, an extraordinary instrument. I can't really tell a difference, between the bridge. The pickups we know are the same. The neck, I will say this, and I don't know if it's just something to do with the difference in these are 3 years different as far as production models. obviously the color, you know, if you compare them, and other people have said this, like maybe if you look at the back, you can see like this one is darker. So whatever they're doing with this roasting process on the Prestige, it's getting it a little bit darker. But they still feel about the same. I don't know if this is just, this is what they did in the 2018 models, and 2021 is a little different. But this has always had a nice smooth finish, like almost like there's no finish there. It's not an unfinished, but if you've ever had, you know, those Ibanez Wizard necks with that really light finish on there, it feels nice. You know, it's not like having a gloss neck like you're playing a Strat or a Telly. You know, it's got that really smooth feel. But this has an extreme satin finish, you know, almost just like a tongue oil. So this is the slightest bit smoother, but I never felt like my hands get stuck on this. If you're watching this video and I got these turned around and you're wondering why is there black tape on here, when I first started doing gigs with this, and sometimes I do wedding gigs, and so I'm wearing a suit and my button would get stuck in one of these holes. So there was a few times where I had to take my jacket off with the guitar, set it down, and try and get the button out. So I just put some tape over there so that way it wouldn't get stuck. But again, there really is no major difference that you're going to feel as a player when you get the premium and feel like, oh, this is a much less instrument than this. They're way closer than they are different. The biggest factor should be, okay, like number one, what's the configuration you want to get? Of course, you want to get a 6 or 7. They have 6 and 7s in both the premium and the Prestige. Right now, they're only offering just the one model, 7-string in the premium. But if you're just looking at the 6s, it's kind of like, okay, what configuration you want, and then let's look at, honestly, what's the color scheme you want? Because if you're dead set on like a certain look, you're not going to feel like you're getting a lesser one if you're getting the premium. So at the end of the day, try not to worry too much about Prestige or premium. Get the guitar that obviously best fits your needs, and get the paint scheme that looks the best to you, that you think, and the finish that looks the nicest. If the money is an issue, then go with the premium. You know, one thing that's unfortunate now is that they seem to have really, at least as of this year's models, really cut down the amount of premium models they offer, which I think they're only offering 3, and they don't even offer an HSS in the premium, if I remember right. So maybe that'll change, but there's definitely been lots of good premium models that have come out, you know, the first 2 years they were out. So especially if you want to go pick one up used, I would highly recommend that. One other side note is that I got this from Anderton's, and they had to special order it, so I'm assuming they got it just straight from Ibanez. I got this from the Music Zoo, which is a place in New York, and I don't know if they do their own setup before they send it out, but this was set, the premium one was set up so much better when I got it than this one was. Not that this one was bad, but the action was pretty high. The truss rod was definitely straight, but almost front bow just a little bit. This one was more like, I pulled it out, played it, never really had to touch it. This one I had to do some adjusting to. Now I've got it playing great now. I think this is more the norm, that when it comes from the factory, they just set it up, you know, and again, this had to come from overseas, and so it's like, I think they're setting it up so that, you know, when you get it, it's not going to be buzzing out or anything like that. But you know, I think the quality is there on, of course, on both lines. I wish this one was just a little bit cheaper. I don't think it's quite worth the $2K price tag, or the little more. This is actually $2,200, but I believe that they're both incredible guitars, whether you get something from the Prestige or the premium line, and just have fun playing them, and do not feel like if you get the premium that you're getting a lesser instrument, because this thing has been absolutely fantastic. If they had this finish, you know, for example, I really like that one. My second favorite when they came out with the AZs was this finish. This is one of the first finishes they had. This, they call it Tri-Fade Burst or something. They had it in the 6-string. And then I just kind of put off getting it because I was like, well, I can't justify getting another one because it's just another, you know, 6-string. But then when they came out with the 7 strings, I was like, in this scheme, I was like, oh man, I got to get this. Like, let's say they only came out with this paint scheme in a 7-string in the premium, and they didn't have it in the Prestige, I'd have got the premium in a heartbeat and been a happy camper. So it was just because they only offered this in the Prestige. You know, I didn't really like the the paint scheme on the 7-string premium. So I was just kind of like, and it sounds weird. It's like you think, well, looks aren't important to a guitar, but it's like, I don't know. It is kind of important because you got to look at it for the rest of your your time that you have this, and when you're playing gigs and stuff. And it's just you're always looking down at it. So of course the sound is the most important thing, but looks are important too. So when it comes to a guitar, you want to really like the instrument you're playing and have good feelings about it, because that'll affect how you play. So anyways, at the end of the day, prestige or premium, it doesn't really matter. They're both incredible. So I would recommend getting an AZ if you haven't already. They're amazing guitars.